Hello there, and welcome to Adobe Chat's B2B Marketing Demystified Asia Edition. I'm your host, Joe Escobedo, and with me are two marketing experts. First, we have Rhys Taylor, who is Managing Director, Asia Pacific at Gyro, and Jake Hurd, who is VP, Asia Pacific B2B Group at Merkle. So, gentlemen, thanks so much for being on the show.
Great to be here.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Really excited to have you guys on the show today because there's been a lot of talk recently about the death of cookies. A lot of marketers are really rethinking their whole strategy when third-party data isn't necessarily going to be a viable option going forward. So what would be your advice to these brands?
We all know it's happening, but it's what is the implication of this change? And how do we tie that back to what it means when you're trying to build those fantastic customer experiences that are going to drive business success? Where does it sit in the context of the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, and promotion? And so when we try and talk to our clients about this, we try and put it in that context because that context is different for every single one of their businesses and their marketing operations.
It's always the death of something in marketing. But there's always going to be workarounds with the Marketo platform. Creating identifying sort of first-party cookies and starting to drop that kind of information. But what it does is it lends more to the notion that actually first-party data is really, really critical now and will be more so in the future. Using first-party data to design those experiences, to make it compelling, to make it relevant to the right audience at the right time. I think that's going to be really sort of at the forefront of marketers' minds, certainly in the next 12 to 18 months. Often there's a confusion between lead generation and demand generation. I think fundamentally they're two different things. Demand generation, very, very different exercise. It's thinking about the place of brand at the top of funnel. It's thinking about how you position your product against your competitors. There's a whole bunch of things in there. The disagreement point is much more around less demand generation and just more full funnel thinking. How do you ensure a brand to demand approach? And how do you nurture leads through that whole process in the right way?
Whether it is demand or lead generation, the conversation is so often focused on going down, double-clicking, drilling down, getting more granular. And look, that's important. But it's also equally important to sometimes stop and look back up. What are you attributing to? How is what we're doing in marketing or in digital driving broader marketing success? How is that driving broader commercial success? If you're a B2B organization and 95% of your revenue comes from a partner channel, well, there's a very clear way that you need to show sort of attribution, and that's that you're helping the partner channel work and that your partners have you as top of mind and preferred supplier. When you've got that first party data, when you've cracked identity resolution, your data means so much more to so many more people in your businesses. When you've got that richer data, that lets other people go and take it and use it in ways that maybe as a marketer isn't relevant, but in sales or somewhere else in the business, it's incredibly relevant. If we're going back up the chain of value and everything that we're doing is anchored to a marketing goal that's attached to a commercial objective, that's clearly showing the contribution to the bottom line, but just in a slightly different way.
We're very distracted by vanity metrics. It's all about impressions and clicks, and those kind of things are important, I guess, like at an activation level to a certain extent. But it doesn't really give you a view on impact to the business. It's very easy to sort of say, we ran like a bunch of TV ads and it all worked. But in B2B, it's very, very different. And actually ensuring that there's a robust measurement framework in place, and then the analytics capability behind it is actually, anchored to that very, very strongly. That's the recipe for success, I think. I think it all ties back to really just having the freedom to design what that B2B experience needs to look like, particularly in the APAC market. There's a big fixation on getting people through a sales funnel, but there's very little conversation around retention marketing. The retention play from B2B marketing using data of existing customers is so much easier than trying to acquire it from scratch and trying to build out those experiences from zero. If you want to get that sort of optimal 10,000 audience, you have to understand what you're trying to achieve. And then you can actually go out and target the right audience with the right message and the right creative in the right channels. And I think that's really, really important.
It's about how you're changing the way you activate or engage people so that you're gathering more data and more relevant and valuable data that not just serves your marketing needs, but the needs of other stakeholders in your business too.